Welcome into the latest edition of College Football Smothered and Covered. My name is Barrett Salee. Appreciate you checking out the show. A little early today, 8:15 a.m. Eastern Time, going live. And yes, that is early. Yes, that is a little weird. And no, it is not the optimal time to record a live podcast. But today is the first day of March Madness. So around noon Eastern Time, everybody's sports mind is gone. So what I'm doing right now, trying to get the podcast out early, trying to give you something to listen to, pay attention to at work before you get distracted, start hitting that boss button that CBS has available, and you'll watch a ton of basketball. So that's why we're doing this a little early. If you have any questions or comments, put them in the chat. I will answer them as best as possible. We do have a busy show today. We'll talk a little bit about Deion Sanders and maybe a wasted opportunity for him in terms of attracting people to Boulder, high school recruits to Boulder. We'll also break down the SEC schedule. I have some thoughts on the scheduling matrix, which the one for 2025 was announced yesterday. Plus, we'll go through the top three games, I should say, of week one of the college football season. But a reminder, please subscribe, leave a review, positive, negative, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever. We're all part of one college football ecosystem, whether it's Cover 3 or Paid or whoever. So leave a review. Please listen, share it around, and listen to those guys too, because you deserve college football 24/7, 365. And that is what I strive to do and what we strive to do here with the crew on College Football Smothered and Covered. Let's go Buffs. BreakingT.com/smothered and covered. You can get this shirt, this Colorado shirt, which I was flying off the shelves. And we're going to talk about Colorado today. It's been one of the hottest sellers in terms of apparel throughout the entire country. Deion has revitalized that program. Now we can talk about whether they can be Bama, be the new dynasty, or if they're just a little sizzle and not steak. But they have some great gear over Breaking T. So BreakingT.com/smothered and covered. If you want to pick up this baby or any other college shirt out there, they have some other stuff too, coffee mugs, artwork, things like that. And Major League Baseball season started yesterday in Korea. Game going on right now in Korea between the Dodgers and the Padres. Get ready for the Brave season. BreakingT.com, I should say, smothered and covered /Barrett for that. All right. Speaking of Colorado, this I just don't understand. I don't understand what Deion Sanders is doing here. I think he's wasting a golden opportunity. And this was, I guess, from last week, but people seem to pick it up yesterday and today. And this is a quote from Deion. I think it was when they started spring practice. My approach is totally different than many coaches. I'm a businessman as well. So I try to save our university money every darn chance I get. For me to go, let's say, to Florida and I'm visiting IMG Academy, you don't think those coaches are going to be a little upset if I don't come by the school down the street? You don't think it's going to be pandemonium or I'm going to get naysayed if I don't go another 45 minutes? Then if I go to that one, why didn't I come to that school? Now the coach is mad and he's not going to let the kid come because I chose this school over that school. Isn't that the point? You're Deion Sanders. You took over a downtrodden program. It's supposed to be pandemonium. That's the entire point. So to me, you're missing a golden opportunity. Golden, yes, pun very much intended for the gold and black of Colorado. There will be some coaches, there will be some players that are upset if you don't show up at their school. 100%. You know what happens when Nick Saban, when he was recruiting, didn't show up at a high school down the road? When Urban Meyer didn't show up at a high school down the road? When Hugh Freeze did it? Brian Kelly, Lincoln Riley. You know what happens? Yeah, they get upset. Those guys get really upset that they didn't come to their school and show their player love. This is not a woe is me business. College football recruiting is not a woe is me business. It's a cutthroat business. So yeah, if Deion Sanders spurns one high school 45 minutes away, in this case, talking about IMG Academy, you know what that's going to do? Stoke a fire in that player, stoke a fire in that coach. To get Deion to go to their place, to get Deion to recognize those players, to get Deion to recognize, hey, this kid is a 3-star right now, but he's developing. There's no reason to make this a business about butthurt. And that's what it seems like that it's being suggested here, that some of these other coaches, some of these other players are going to whine and cry instead of working their tails off to get recruited by Deion Sanders. It's supposed to be pandemonium. Deion Sanders recruiting a school down the road, visiting a school down the road, is supposed to create pandemonium. And if a high school coach 45 minutes away, if a player 45 minutes away holds it against him that he didn't show up, that he didn't make that phone call, that he didn't make that in-house visit, work harder. Work harder. And if you whine and cry about it, if you're that player and you whine and cry about it, if you're that high school coach and you whine and cry about it, Deion's not going to want you anyway. No head coach would want to go visit that school or visit that player anyway. So it's a cutthroat business. And look, I think with this quote, I'm a businessman, so I try to save our university money every darn chance I get. Save your university money? You're in the Big 12, which is great. Granted, not one of the big two. They're still raking in money. Brett Yormark has done a great job leading that conference. Save your university money. You know what changes the revenue model at any school? Winning. So to me, this is just, it's a wasted opportunity. I don't understand it. I know Deion tries to be different in terms of how he markets that program, and that's fine. You have to be different marketing and selling Colorado. Why? Because it's not a traditional power. In fact, before he got there, it was kind of a traditional laughingstock. So I get it. You got to stand out. I'm 100% on board with Deion doing all of these things to stand out. Not this way. It should not be done this way. I don't like it. And look, I'm fully on board with Deion. I love the hire. I love that he's at Colorado. I'm old enough to remember when Colorado was a power in the 90s. I wish him the best. I really hope he gets the job done. I really do. But I just don't understand this, man. I don't get this one bit. We'll see what happens. The SEC scheduling matrix was announced. Sort of. Well, the matrix is only available for 1 year. The SEC announces its 2025 schedule, at least their opponents anyway. And this is from Greg Sankey. We continue to monitor changes across the college sports landscape as they relate to the future of scheduling. Continuing with our current format for the 2025 season provides additional time to understand the impact of the changes happening around us, as well as determine the appropriate long-term plan for SEC football. All right. So for this, basically the schedule from 2024 is flipped. And that's it. That part of it is lame. I get you want to have parity and you want to have home and homes for everything, for everybody that happened to play each other in 2024. You really didn't have to do that. I think you could have jumbled the whole thing up, kept essentially what is a 7-1 format, 7 rotators, 1 permanent, which is essentially, they didn't say that when the 2024 schedule was announced, but let's be honest, you look at Auburn plays Alabama, Ole Miss plays Mississippi State, Texas plays Texas A&M, you know what you're getting, right? For Georgia plays Florida. they're basically setting up a 7+1 format if, in fact, they stay with the 8-game format. But you have Texas and Oklahoma in. Don't you want to mix things up? Let opponents visit Texas. I mean, look, Georgia and Texas A&M haven't even played together. Georgia fans have never seen College Station other than the road that is off the exit in Athens. I don't like this. I think they could have done a better job. Now, I'm very critical of Greg Sankey. Some things he's done, some decisions he's made have bothered me lately. So this is not new to me. I just think fans of the conference deserve better in terms of scheduling. They deserve better. If you saw Oklahoma, if you're seeing Oklahoma, I should say in 2024, go see Texas, play Texas in 2025. I don't see what the big deal is. It's fine. You don't have to have the same opponents playing each other. And again, like this sets up a situation like we have with Georgia and Texas A&M down the road where you don't see each other all that much. But to me, I still think there are changes coming. Here is that schedule, which I'm again, what are we looking at here? What are the big ones? Georgia and Alabama. Georgia's at home. They play on the road this year. Of course, Auburn plays Georgia and Alabama. That's the way things are. The Egg Bowl's got to stick around. But if you're Mississippi State, you get Georgia at home. Why is that fair? Can't you mix things up? Yeah. Yeah, nothing about this excites me all that much. And I don't know what Billy Napier did to piss off the schedule makers. He's still got those out-of-conference games. He's got Georgia technically as a home game next season. So that wastes one of their home games. So the two true home games for Florida are Mississippi State, Tennessee, and Texas. My goodness gracious. Billy Napier can't handle this. Billy Napier cannot handle this. I don't know, again, what happened, but if he's not gone this year, he's going to be gone next year. There's no way he can navigate through that kind of gauntlet 2 seasons in a row. But again, could have been better. Could have been better. And I do think, and we'll talk about this in a second in relation to SEC teams, I've been an advocate of the 9-game conference schedule forever. Forever. The SEC should play 9 conference games. Now, I think in that statement that Greg Sankey had in that press release, the operative words here, it's really those last couple of sentences. Continuing with our current format for the 2025 season provides additional time to understand the impact of the changes happening around us as we determine the appropriate long-term plan for SEC football scheduling. No, not SEC football scheduling, college football scheduling. This is not a surprise that they kept the SEC schedule at 8 games. I hate the way that it's formatted. I hate the way that the opponents don't change. But the SEC's long-term scheduling matrix should and will coincide with the new college football playoff format after it expires during the 2025-2026 season. This has been the plan all along. And look, I'm not saying Greg Sankey knew that after the current CFP contract, which does expire 2 years from now, they would talk about going to 14 teams. I didn't know that. But I guarantee you, when the 12-team format was sort of a pipe dream, that they understood, hey, we're going to have to bridge the gap when Texas and Oklahoma come to the SEC. What are we going to do? Well, if we don't settle on a long-term format, it would be malpractice to set a long-term schedule into existence when so much is going to change within your own conference, much less whatever happens when the CFP contract expires. So this was expected. I know there's this idea, people outside of the SEC are like, the SEC is scared to play 9 games and blah, 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 blah. The SEC doesn't play out of conference, like all this nonsense. And we'll talk about that in a second. That's not the case here. It is good business and smart business to do what they're doing with these 1-year sort of temporary formats. I just don't like the formats. I think they're stupid. Top 3 games of week 1 of the college football season. Top 3 games. Number 3, it is this one right here. Notre Dame at Texas A&M. How awesome will this be? A reminder, if you want to have some comments, you want to be featured on the show, drop them in YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, whatever. Notre Dame at Texas A&M. 1, the Irish in College Station is going to be awesome. Absolutely awesome. You talk about a raucous atmosphere. And I've been to Texas A&M. That press box sways more than an earthquake in Oakland, California. That's going to be wild. That's going to be one of the greatest scenes we've seen. And for Texas A&M, the Mike Elko era, the familiarity is awesome, but this is so comparable to Kevin Sumlin's debut with Johnny Manziel. 12 years later, it feels a lot like the same thing. Sumlin gets the job at Texas A&M. We didn't even know who the starting quarterback was. It turned out to be Manziel. It was a big opponent. I think it was Florida. Now, Texas A&M lost that game, but all the eyes were on Texas A&M. Pun very not much not intended. I apologize with the eyes thing. Texas A&M fans, don't get on me for that. But it's a show me game for the Aggies. Show me what you are and show me what you could be. I don't know what Texas A&M can be because this is a first-time coach, tough spot, not first-time, first-year coach in a tough spot. But if you compete in that game, then buckle up, SEC, because Texas A&M's coming. Now for Notre Dame, that is the most interesting part of this. Yeah, Texas A&M, Mike Elko, that's huge. But you lose Sam Hartman, but you get Riley coming in. Marcus Freeman he's sort of in this situation where we don't know exactly what he is yet. We think he can be good. Is he Brian Kelly? He's shown flashes of that. And I'm not saying Brian Kelly was a great coach at Notre Dame. But what are you? Are you a team that can actually get to the playoff, which is something Brian Kelly did? Or are you this sort of middling team that, 9-3-ish, 8-4, kind of the world and neighborhood you live in? This is a show me game for both, but it's a show me game for Notre Dame. In this format, Notre Dame should be in the college football playoff every single season. But if they lose this game, think about what that would do. The margin for error would go from wide open to, it's getting pretty tight. Yeah, it's only one loss, but if you lose another and you're 10-2, losing to an SEC team that might or might not even be that great is going to make for some interesting comparisons in that committee room if and when Notre Dame does become a contender for the college football playoff. Number 2, Vegas, baby. Vegas. If you haven't seen Swingers, you're doing yourself a disservice, but you will know where that Vegas baby line comes from. LSU and USC, Allegiant Stadium. When this contract was signed, we had no idea USC was going to be a Big Ten opponent, but here we are, 2 Power 2 conference teams facing off in the giant Roomba known as Allegiant Stadium. So I am so fascinated. And we saw yesterday, I don't know if you saw the quotes from Garrett Nussmeier saying, yeah, he's not going to be part of it's not going to be nearly what it looks like in terms of the rushing attack, but he's still going to be a part of that. Garrett Nussmeier is obviously not Jaden Daniels, but is he a willing runner? I don't know if he's a willing runner. But we don't know what that offense is going to be. Denbrock's gone. Obviously, all the weapons are gone. They got Josh Williams back at running back. Is he an every down back? They lose some receivers. Can Garrett Nussmeier win with his arm when he doesn't have the ability to make plays with his legs? Certainly not what Jaden Daniels did. I don't know. We'll see. But what happens if USC shuts that attack down? Is USC a contender? Because the only thing that is preventing Lincoln Riley from building a contender at USC is Lincoln Riley. The only reason USC can't be a playoff team is because Lincoln Riley neglects his defense. Doesn't even try. So they made changes. Obviously, Grinch was fired, early November last year. They hit the reset button defensively. Will Lincoln actually change his philosophy? Or will he be too stubborn and say, you know what? We're still going to be Oklahoma when I was there. We're still going to be the first 2 years of USC. We're going to be all offense. We're going to try to outscore anybody and try to find just enough defense. I don't think it's going to happen. But what happens if they show that they can shut down LSU? An LSU offense that, admittedly, will not look like it did last year or the year before. It's progress. It'd be progress. Because USC, that defense gets lit up by everybody. So if this changes and it shows that it paid a little bit attention to, I don't know, fundamental things like tackling, then look out Big Ten. I don't think that'll be the case. I think Lincoln Riley's overrated. I don't think he cares about defense. So I don't think they're going to be able to shut down a new look LSU offense because they don't practice fundamentals. But if they do, even though LSU looks different, it's a good sign for USC because in the past, they just haven't cared about defense. Number one, numero uno, best game of week one. Boom, there it is. Georgia at Clemson in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which is a disaster compared to the beauty of the Georgia Dome. RIP Georgia Dome. But Georgia at Clemson. Is this an elimination game? No. If people try to tell you it's an elimination game, they're forgetting that we have 12 teams in the playoff. But it's enormous for Clemson because Will Shipley's gone. And if you saw the show earlier this week, you heard me say it's bad. It's not the worst. It's a situation that they can overcome with Maffa. We saw what he can do last year, led the team in rushing and had a great game in the bowl game. But it's, to me, more along the lines of what's the Clemson offense now? Because for whatever reason, I don't know, Cade Klubnik was not let loose. I think he's more than a willing runner. Didn't seem to happen. I think he can stretch the field. Didn't really happen on a consistent basis. I remember watching the Duke game. My buddy Tom Luganville was on the sidelines and had a tremendous sprint through the Duke student section to get to midfield to interview Mike Elko, actually. But I remember thinking, what the hell? This is not what we were promised. We were promised a different look. Garrett Riley was there, for God's sakes. We were promised the TCU offense. We didn't get it. It was like a complete 180. Does Clemson open things up against Georgia? Because they might have to. Because guess what? Georgia's offense is going to be dynamic. So at Georgia, look, it's not the end of the world if they lose that game. Certainly the margin of error drops and all that other stuff, and that's going to be something we talk about throughout the course of the season. But if you lose to Clemson, you're still okay. If Clemson loses to Georgia, it depends on how they look. What do they look like? What changes have they made? Specifically, what is Cade Klubnik being asked to do? Not what he's doing, what he's being asked to do. Because that, to me, will show whether or not Clemson's a contender or pretender for the ACC title. Now, that may still, if they're not a contender for the ACC title and a pretender for the conference title, they still could get into the playoff, obviously. Access, not excellence. That's why this playoff system sucks. But I'm more interested in how they look like. But, okay, last thing. SEC schedule haters. Those top three games. What conference did they all include? Oh, that's right, the SEC. So stop it with the nonsense that the SEC is scared to play out of conference. Yeah, 2 of those games are neutral site games. I don't care. Those 3 games are the top 3 of week 1. And the other options, Miami versus Florida and Penn State versus West Virginia. What are we even doing here? I mean, come on. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. What isn't ridiculous is March Madness. The games tip off here. It's 8:40 a.m. Tip off in 3-4 hours. So that's why we did this early. Try to get this out there before you start using that boss button and stop work and focus solely on brackets. So that's why we are out here early. I appreciate you guys checking out the show. A reminder, please share the show. A couple guys shared the show on X this morning when I woke up. A lot of random tweets, which I absolutely love. So share the show. If you like it, 5 stars and a review. If you don't like it, 1 star. Tell me why it sucks. But either way, we're here for you. Want to be part of the college football community, college football podcast community, which is growing rapidly. And we all exist to give you what you want, which is coverage of the greatest sport in the world. Have a great Thursday, everybody. Hope your brackets aren't busted. But remember, your brackets are not really busted. You know why? Because if you lose your number 1 seed on Thursday or Friday, it does not matter all that much. There are still 2 more weekends. You will be fine.